Okay, guys, so here we are again. This week's discussion is about vision. And as you can see, I've moved inside to my kitchen because this one's actually happening pretty late at night. But with that being said, and after a couple of long days, I'm going to try and wrap some thoughts up here so that we can kind of talk a little bit more about what leadership is and how to be effective leaders so that we can serve our organizations better. So again, this week's assignment was on vision and leadership. In particular, what's the vision in your organization or your environment? And then what signals that vision? How do you kind of know what it is? Is it being relayed and communicated properly? Is there a metaphor that kind of describes it? Are we part of a team, one big happy family? How would you describe your organization in that aspect? And then kind of what are yours or maybe your leader's strengths or weaknesses when it comes to creating clarity as a collaborative leader? And that's incredibly important to vision because clarity is kind of that linchpin for vision and leadership. And then the last question is kind of what recommendations or changes would you make based on the evaluation of your organization to inspire a shared vision? And we'll hit on how you can be inspirational regardless of your position in leadership, be it at the top or at the bottom, in or out of leadership, because again, we believe that everybody is potentially a leader. All it takes is one person following you, and trust me, wherever you are, there's always at least one person following you. It's just kind of the way the world works. So without further ado, let's kind of dive into this. I wanted to start with Hans Fenzel, the top 10 mistakes that leaders make. In here on page 207, he gives a quote from Warren Bennis and Bert Nanas, who wrote the book Leaders. And it says, to choose a direction, a leader must first develop a mental image of a possible and desirable future state of the organization. This image, which we call a vision, may be as vague as a dream or as precise as a goal or mission statement. The critical point is that a vision articulates a view of a realistic, credible, attractive future for the organization, a condition that is better in some important ways than what now exists. So a vision is a goal. It's where do we want to go? And then it's how do we get there? If we can say, okay, we need to take steps A, B, and C, or steps 1, 2, and 3, but you know what? Here's our end goal. Here is where we want to be. How do we get there? And if we don't clearly articulate what that end point is, then talking about how we get there is kind of pointless because we don't understand. We have no clue what we're actually trying to achieve. I hear, kids, they say it all the time. Why? Because I said so. My son can go touch the stove and it be hot. And I've told him, don't touch it. Why? Because it's hot. But if he doesn't necessarily understand that, he's just going to go grab it. Because I didn't explain to him. If I say it's hot, then he knows, okay, well, it's hot, so I clearly don't want to touch it. If I just say, because I said so, I'm not clarifying that vision for him. And so he's going to be tempted to go over and go, well, whatever. And then he sets his hand on there and it burns. And, well, now he's learned a lesson the hard way. And we can avoid those hard-learned lessons 90% of the time if we will just cast that vision accurately and articulately in a way that people can understand. So in my organization that I'm in now, I'm going to not actually use. It's a great organization. There's just so much that we do that I can't talk about. It's hard to kind of really give you an honest understanding. So I'm going to go back to my default, which is my time at Chick-fil-A. Fantastic organization. I'd go back and work for them in a heartbeat. I would just, and as I've said before, their focus is really on leadership, and it doesn't matter whether you're right at the top or the bottom, you're a leader, period, end of discussion. And so, is the work environment, was the vision easy to understand? Yes, it was. And I'll tell you why. There are signs that get posted in every Chick-fil-A. And it's generally speaking between that walkway between the kitchen and the front of the house. Kind of that outdoor frontline area and the dining. And above there's a verse that says, do everything you do, not as if you're working for man, but as if you're working for God. And whether you believe in God or not, I think everybody who works for Chick-fil-A can understand what that statement is. You're not doing it for you. You're not doing it even for the person right beside you. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. You're literally pouring out all of who you are into what you do. So that you can have that communication and that connection with somebody. And you can be that leader, regardless of where you stand in the ranking structure of the totem pole. You can be that leader. We talk a lot about what it is that leaders should do. And casting a vision is a good thing, but you have to be careful when you cast a vision. And I'm going to tell you why. So, becoming a coaching leader, Daniel Harkavy, if you have it, hard copy, it's page 77. If you have it on a Kindle, I don't know what page it is, but work with me. I'm doing the best I can. So anyway, in here he's talking about, he went and spent a day at Chick-fil-A headquarters to kind of figure out exactly what it is they thought about leadership and how they ran their organization. The guy's a leadership expert. He's written numerous books on leadership. And this one is just a phenomenal read because I think coaching leader really kind of sums up what we want to be when we talk about servant leaders and coaching leaders and leadership being an affair not just of the head but of the heart. He's talking about business vision. He says, visionary leaders such as Truett Cathy have a way of inviting team members to take ownership of the unique corporate culture these leaders envision. The specific product or service simply doesn't matter. They end up creating something special as a result of their hard and intentional work. They create something special as a result of their hard and intentional work. Now, what happens when you work hard and intentionally? Not just you create great things. That is absolutely the first order effect. But what tends to be the second order effect when you really, really, really get into that place where you are just driven and focused and determined and nothing's going to get in your way? The downside of that can be burnout. It can be that. My grandmother used to say, don't burn the candle at both ends of the stick. And she's right. When we're talking about vision and leadership, it has to be such an articulate and clearly laid out, I started to say scheme, that's kind of the wrong word, but almost that clearly laid out point of destination. And we've got to charge towards it, but we've got to be careful when we charge towards it. And I want to read, Reggie McNeil wrote a book called A Work of Heart. And it's talking about how specifically how God forms spiritual leaders, but he talks in here specifically about how things get our attention. And he says, consider, on page 179, he says, consider pain, for instance. Pain focuses our attention. C.S. Lewis gave us that fabulous insight that God whispers to us in our pleasure, but shouts to us in our pain. Everyone suffers some form of pain, physical or psychological. The leader who accepts pain as the work of God in the commonplace grows from it rather than being diminished by it. So when you get to that point where you've burnt the candle at both ends of the stick, and you're kind of burnt out, and you're feeling that pain, you got to focus even more on that vision. And you've got to say, is what I'm doing worthwhile? And if at the end of the day you can look at it and say, yes, what I am doing is worthwhile, you can look at it and say, okay, we've improved in this area and that area. We still need to work on this one or that one. And you have that moment where everything else just goes to the side and you are focused. Take a breather, sit back, relax, and start again. Because the vision doesn't change. It can change if it's not working. But if it's an effective vision, it's been clearly articulated, the vision won't change. Strategies change. The vision needs to stay the same. And in order to inspire other people to share that vision that you have and that you have cast and that you have put out there, you've got to do the hard work. You've got to get in the trenches, and you've got to be the servant leader. So that's all I have to say this week about vision and how it affects leadership, the good, the bad, the ugly. It only took 10 minutes, so I'd say that was pretty good timing. I'm sure there's tons more we could talk about. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Try a video. They're kind of fun to do. I think I'm the only one who's done them thus far, but I won't swear to it. I will go and check and see if anybody else has done them. But they are fun to do, and it's easier sometimes to just say what you're thinking, especially at the level that we're working at in the graduate area, than it is to try and type it out. So just a thought. Go have fun, cast a vision, be a servant leader, and I will see you again soon.